Welcome to Brands Hatch, where we've got a weekend packed with Lotus racing ahead of us on the magnificent Grand Prix circuit. We've got a combined grid from the Lotus Cup UK and the Lotus Cup Europe, and racing from Lotus on Track and the East Trophy.
First time in Brands Hatch, and I think it's a marvelous circuit, but very difficult to learn. You know, about 10 years of a race before. It's the first time I drive on a circuit so difficult to learn. It's very interesting, terrific, quick, but very difficult to know where you have to turn. It's very impressive because there is a lot of blind turn, and it's so you have to drive a lot to know to make a good time. It's very difficult.
And Frank, I understand you're not only here for the racing, but you've also decided to take a holiday here in England.
Yes, that's right. I traveled for 1 week around the area through London, and I've seen some other nice places like Colchester and so on.
And have you been able to check out any of our English food here? What do you think of it?
Yeah, sure, we did. Me and my wife, we like fish and chips very much, and so we tried it several times.
Good stuff. And I understand that you've not driven here at Brands before. Can you tell us a little bit about how you're finding the circuit?
Yes, I've never been to Brands Hatch, and I find it's a quite difficult circuit for a newcomer like me, because you're getting closer and closer to the braking points and so on, and this takes a lot of time because the track is very, very difficult.
So is that down to the undulations or the corners? What do you think is the most challenging part here?
I think the most challenging parts are the corners and find out where the brake point is.
Well, it's going to be very busy to try and find the braking points here. It's got 44 cars taking to the grid for the first of this weekend's Lotus Cup UK / Lotus Cup Europe races, and they make a very fine sight with, on the front row of the grid, Mark Fullerlove, the runaway Lotus Cup UK race dominator this year, and Steve Williams alongside him. Got well up on the grid Philippe Loop as well in 77, and Pete Story always goes well here at Brands Hatch in the sky blue and orange 26 car. Very competitive field here, setting off on the formation lap in advance of the rolling start. You can see them stretching the entire length of the Brabham Straight, but it's the 211s towards the front of the field, with then Rob Fenn well up as well in the Go Green Motorsport 66 car. Expect to see him going nicely as the race progresses. Also look for Greg Rass in the white Lotus Evora. So the field one final opportunity to get to grips with the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Just to run you down the grid, it is Mark Fullerlove in pole position, Steve Williams alongside him, Philippe Loop and Pete Story lockout row 2, then Christophe Legendre 5th, Rob Fenn 6th, Remy Pourchevant, who's done so well this year, in 7th, and Tom Chataway in 8th. Field coming through to complete the formation. That when the red light goes out, we'll go racing here for the first time this weekend to Brands Hatch. Out goes the lights, and away we go. The field fanning out across the width of the Brabham Straight, but it's Mark Fullerlove who streaks into that early lead with Steve Williams into second place. Rob Fenn looking feisty in the midfield. Here's Greg Azechka, so he gets on to tell Xavier Georges in the 99 car, and there's Simon Deacon as well in 39 trying to force his way through. Although everybody cleanly through Paddock Hill Bend, which is what we want to see as they climb up the hill towards Druids. And again, thus far, looking fairly clean as well. We've got several classes in this race, the 211s, the open class, the exige class, the production class, and also the Evoras as well. So if you like Lotuses, well, this is the series to come and race in, because you'll certainly find a home. As you can see, they've all found a home on the track thus far. Plenty of jostling for position. In the middle, there's David Harvey in the 340R, as out onto the Grand Prix loop go the field for the first time, streaking down Pilgrim's Drop on towards Hawthorne's, one of the fast scores. There's the production class side by side, Ken Savage and Steve Quick. They're in the midfield, but they are fighting for class honours, and in the Lotus Cup UK, championship points are there to be played for. So Savage looking to fight back on the inside of Quick. It's the two yellow cars through Hawthorne's. It's Savage to the inside in number 5 machine. He's going to go through and up the inside of Steve Quick. So Ken Savage momentarily moving into the lead of production class. It's then Doug Setters who's the next man following in behind Tim. 3 are pressed a little bit lower down. It's Paul McNeely and Nigel Ayres in amongst it. As at the front of the field, though, the only real change from the grid is that we've seen Pete Stewart up in third, and also dropping down is Philippe Loup in 77. There's Remy Pourchevin, who won both races at Dijon, both races at Magny-Cours. He's got John Rass and Greg Rass on his tail as Lisandre looking to challenge Pete Story for third. We go in car with Rob Fenn. He's currently in fifth, working the wheels. He looks to make the move here on Christophe Lisandre, climbing up the hill towards Druids. Rob Fenn's got a good run here. He moves to the inside of the 211. Through he goes, up into fourth place there for Rob Fenn, the car that he shares with his dad David. David will be taking over in race 2. But Rob, at the moment, making very good progress here. Off in pursuit now of Pete Story, but at the front of the field, Mark Fullerlove and Steve Williams driving away from the field here. And this is what we've seen so often during 2011 from Mark Fullerlove, particularly at Silverstone back in April. He absolutely dominated there, and he's trying to get the run here on Steve Williams. But don't forget, Mark Fullerlove has never won at Brands Hatch before. It's always been something of a Burgundy circuit for him, so he'll be looking for a good result this weekend. As back downhill to Hawthorne's Lisandre looks to fight back for fourth. Around the outside he goes, around Rob Fenn. That's a good move from Christophe Lisandre, but Fenn's got the inside line coming up towards Westfield. We go in car with Rob Fenn, turning through the right-hander, but no, Lisandre has made the move stick. So the 211 of Christophe Lisandre goes back into fourth. All the while it's rather allowing Pete Story to drive away in third. They come over the crest at Sheens, and then on to the cambered left-hander at Stirling's. Then Tom Chataway, who's the next man up. So good to see Tom going well. And we've got plenty of fighting going on just behind them as well. Remy Pourchevin trying to make progress, but at the moment failing to. And still they come. That's Mark Goodate and Simon Deacon in the two black 211s. And then just behind them, Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet. Back to the fight for third, though, and Pete Story is about to be demoted because Lisandre goes through at Druids. So Christophe Lisandre up into third position. Story down into fourth. He's got the inside run down towards Graham Hill Bend. Christophe Lisandre taking no prisoners, and Pete Story has to settle for conceding that place, but he can't attack too aggressively here because he's got Rob Fenn right at his tail. It's now Fenn's turn to look the inside into Surtees, and through he goes. So Rob Fenn goes fourth once more. Now is Pete Story there on the outside? No, he's not. Instead he looks to move to the other side of the circuit, trying to draw alongside Rob Fenn as they plunge down the hill towards Hawthorne's. Now this lap ago is where we saw Rob being demoted by Christophe Lisandre, but he manages to keep his foot in and keep Pete Story at bay. So Rob Fenn has made that move stick as Lisandre jumps on the brakes. We'll replay a little bit further back down the field, and that's Nicholas Walker taking a trip to the gravel trap, and he might well be walking out of that because he's rather bogged in there. So Nicholas Walker in car 6 out of the race. Back to the race leader, Mark Fullerlove, British Touring Car Championship man, and just continuing to exert his dominance over the field here at Brands Hatch. Dominant performance from him, but more adventures lower down the order. That's a spin there for David Harvey, as the rest of the field scattering an avoidance. Thierry Humbert, who has also gone around in the 37 car, onto Westfield, and that's Tanya Mann who goes around, and Paul McNeely in sympathy. Synchronised spinning, well, not quite. They need a little bit more work to do to be part of the Russ Swift display team. Back to the lead, though, of the production class, and it's still Ken Savage and Steve Quick. A great battle, this one. We go in car with Steve Quick as we run down the hill towards Graham Hill Bend. Ken Savage, does he give him enough racing room? Yes, he does. Steve Quick puts his nose up the inside. Eventually, Ken says, enough's enough. I'm coming across and claim the line. Somebody else ailing there as... wherever you look, there is instant and drama around the circuit. Xavier Georges possibly coming into a few problems as well. He is being passed there by Doug Setters, also by Steve Quick and the recovering David Harvey. So Harvey in the 340R. Last time out at Snetty shared that car with Ollie Webb, the Water by Renault 3.5 driver, who was able to pass on some hints to David. And David's been going really very well this weekend at Brands Hatch. Now this could explain why Xavier Georges was going slowly. Yes, well, oh dear. Very unfortunate there is Jean-Pierre Genou-Prachet, who's come off worse. Gregor Zechka recovers across the grass. But Genou-Prachet in the 211, spinning down the order. Back to the fight for the production class honours. And Ken Savage been able to put the car of David Harvey between himself and Steve Quick. They've got Doug Setters immediately ahead of them. So these four cars running pretty much nose to tail through Stirling's, back down the hill towards Clearways. There is Genou-Prachet, who is recovering. And he's rather being barged aside there. This isn't his race, is it? He's being bullied by the rest of the field, and that car possibly a little bit down on the performance that he'd rather like it to be following that contact earlier on. Back in car with Christophe Lisandre, on the tail of Pete Story. And there up ahead we can see Rob Fenn. So Rob Fenn's gone through into third place, and Pete Story and Christophe Legendre fighting over fourth, and Pete Story elbowed aside, and Christophe Legendre, well, who said you don't get very close racing in the Lotus Cup Europe, because that was a certain run from Christophe Legendre, and really Pete Story left himself exposed. By the time he tried to turn and take the corner, Christophe Legendre was fully aside, and there was nothing that he could do about that. Sterling's the final time, and this has been an emphatic performance from Mark Full Love. He accelerates down the hill. We've just got clear ways to go between the end of the race and the point on the circuit at which Mark Full Love is now, so he accelerates through clearways on Thram straight for the final time. This has been a dominant drive from Mark Full Love, and a very well-deserved victory. So he accelerates up to the flag, and he celebrates yet another victory in the 2011 season. There in second place is somewhat lonely Steve Williams. Been a very strong drive there from Steve, with then Rob Fenn coming through to claim an excellent third position. So very competitive race throughout the field in this opening race of the weekend, not least so in the production class, because it's Steve Quick who's been able to find his way past Ken Savage in the closing stages. So it's going to be Steve Quick who's going to come home and claim production class honours at the very end of the race. Ken Savage being demoted, and it's Quick who does it, and Savage unfortunately is going to have to settle there for second place as the crowd give very warm applause. So here is the final classification with the win for Mark Full Love, Steve Williams second. It's Rob Fenn in third, Christophe Legendre in fourth, John Walker fifth, Pete Story sixth, Remy Pochevin seventh, Tom Chataway in eighth, Philip Luke ninth, and Greg Rass rounding out the top 10 in the Evora. In terms of the classes, well, the 211 class was Mark Full Love from Steve Williams and Christophe Legendre. The Evoras, Gregory Rass held off Thierry Verheest. In the Exige Cup, John Rass from Greg Gazechka and Glenn Sherwood. Lotus Open class, Rob Fenn from Matt Cherrington and David Harvey. And then production honours, as we saw, went to Steve Quick from Ken Savage and John Lemaster. Excellent way to kick off the weekend's action from the Lotuses, and the drivers on top of the podium about to have a very well-deserved champagne fight. We'll be back in a few moments' time with more Lotus action from Brands Hatch.